Ramadan Karim. Because now I know it's the time to purify your soul and your body. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله نبينا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. In the name of Allah, the cherisher and the sustainer of the universe, peace and blessings of Allah be upon our noble prophet and messenger Muhammad, his household and followers, and all those who follow the path of Allah to the day of reckoning. Viewers, I greet you with Islamic fraternal greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And once again, welcome to Islamic Bout on this blissful Friday. First of all, I apologize for the earlier technical issues that we had, and inshallah, thanks to the hard-working technicians here, they've been able to restore everything, and then now we are ready for the program. Today I will be discussing a very important topic. Is Islamic finance a viable option for Ghana's economic development? Views from the Bible and the Qur'an. And my guest is Professor Nail Muhammad Kamil Dengigala from KNUST, Kumasi. Is it Kumasi?
Yeah, KNUST
School of Business. I want to find a KNUST. Kumasi.
Kwame Nkrumah University of Science.
Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST Kumasi. Now, Islamic finance. Now, there is a whole lot of distorted information. People do not actually read about literature and books about Islamic knowledge. Usually they rely on few people who do not have the requisite knowledge, and then people who have made it their business to distort information. So if you want to get the right information, you need to deal with the right caliber of people who understand the issue. So today I have in the studios my own brother, Professor Muhammad. Professor, it has a very long name, Professor Nail Muhammad Kamil, to help us look at Islamic, or to demystify some of the accurate misinformation about Islamic banking and finance. So, Prof, this is your first time here. Sorry.
After a long time, since 2010.
Allahu Akbar. Sorry, this morning you had to go drive to the old Metro TV. Yes. And as you walk past through, this is Studio 6. Meaning we have other studios down, and even there are others up there. So what is your impression about our new studios or the new Metro TV?
I think it's very nice. Yeah, it's very, very nice with the coziness of the area, looking at the staff, very welcoming even from the gates. I think it's quite good.
Oh, so you had a very good reception.
Yes.
So, Prof, let me start with this question. Islamic banking and finance. Islamic banking and finance. In a nutshell, what is Islamic banking and finance?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Thank you very much for this question. Islamic finance is a very broad area, and when we talk of Islamic finance, it's similarly to what we know the main area of finance, which I will call the traditional finance, or let's say the conventional finance. Yes, Islamic finance only means we do the same finance, but in this case there are certain additions and subtractions from the current traditional finance. And the additions or subtractions is based on what religion. Basically, the Abrahamic religions speak on these same things, and specifically when you come to the Islamic religion, there are certain things that a Muslim should do and a Muslim should not do. And when we say something like that, it does not mean Islamic finance is only for Muslims. Even for a Muslim dealing with a non-Muslim, you are unable, you should not be unjust in dealings. And things that lead to the clear distinction between Islamic finance and any other aspects of finance, or the traditional finance to say, are very few things. Number one is the non-interest dealings. Right? In Islamic finance, just like in the conventional finance, we do all sort of products and services. Right? In other words, from the banking sector, is more of moving funds from the hands of those who have surplus to those who are in need. Right? And when these dealings happen, this is where people will want to take the principal in addition, with some interest. In Islamic finance, you do the same thing, but the addition on top, which we call riba, or the interest rate, is what is forbidden. So the very first key distinction is the interest that is charged on loans. The second distinction is what we call maisir, or gambling. And gambling moves into the financing about speculative activities. And speculative activities are strongly and vehemently discouraged in the Islamic sense, even in the Bible. We'll come to that shortly. Okay. And the third aspect, which is a clear distinction between the Islamic finance and the traditional or conventional finance, is about gharar, or what we call uncertainty. Excessive uncertainty in certain financial contracts, where, for instance, a buyer has no say in what he is buying, or someone going for a particular product has very limited questions. He just has to accept whatever the bank gives it to him. So these are forbidden in Islam. And for that matter, you do the same financing, you do the same banking activities and products, but you minus these things. In addition to this, we also look at what we call ethically, socially questionable transactions, right, or socially questionable investments, right? For instance, dealing in alcohol, tobacco companies for a Muslim, or even dealing in prostitution companies. Do you know very well they are dealing in the production of pornography, prostitution, and all those activities in gambling, alcohol companies. As a Muslim, you cannot invest there. Investing there is tantamount to taking the blessings of your, of what they call it, of your man, sadaqah and zakah, which is the concept of giving charity or giving the alms, which is mandatory on every Muslim who is capable to give in a particular period of a year, right, based on the unaccumulated wealth which is there until a year comes, and you have to take about 2.5, right? So this is an addition in Islamic finance which is not in the conventional. Now, having said this, let me make one point clear. Islamic finance is very broad. Within Islamic finance, we have Islamic banking and finance. So Islamic banking and finance is just a subset of the entire Islamic finance that we do, and it don't necessarily mean we have to have an Islamic bank in Ghana before, as a Muslim, you go by what is in the Qur'an. Even between your brother and your other brother, I mean, you are in need, and therefore you go to this brother. Now, giving him what we call a benevolent loan, or in the Arabic sense they call it qard hasan. Benevolent loan serves to promote the cooperation, what we call ta'awun and ukhuwa, which is brotherhood in the community. And when you have this happening at a large scale, then you're going to have mutual coexistence within families, and you're going to have peaceful coexistence. And this is basically some of the things Islam preaches about, about brotherhood. But you see, when you have dealings where people cheat, then it breeds enmity. And enmity leads into chaos. And therefore, you're going to have disorder. The entire fabric of the organization being dismantled. And central bank in particular is there to make sure, in finance, there is this thing that we call the asymmetry of information, adverse selection and moral hazard.
No.
And when adverse selection and moral hazard is so much in the economy, in the system, it's going to break our economic system down. Similarly, in Islamic finance, these things are being protected. So in a nutshell, if you look at the distinctions, or the main differences between conventional Islamic.
You spoke in general terms.
Yes.
It looks as if at a point in time it's very difficult to separate between what the traditional bank and then the Islamic bank is. So I want you to help my viewers by looking at the commonalities between a conventional bank and then Islamic bank, and also we'll look at the differences between, so that we can situate the
business. Similarly, you go to the Islamic bank, you want to borrow 1,000 Ghana cedi. Okay, it gives an option. So what is the option here? There are many options. And these many options are grouped into 4 main areas or categories of contracts.
Okay.
One of them we call the contract of, let's say, exchange. Right? The Islamic bank, for instance, can say, we want to benefit from our capital that we give you. For the money that we have, we want to have a benefit, so that when you give it to us, you have to put an extra. But in this case, because we are prohibited from taking interest, therefore, we give you the money, but we are going to invest in your business. And therefore, we share proceeds of the profit in that business. When there is a loss, we share the loss. But in giving you the money, we can say, okay, we give you the cash, we are the capital owners, you are an entrepreneur. So you use the money, manage the funds, go and do the business you want to do. As a bank, because we want to protect our money, we put risk management, we want to protect our cash, we have to make sure we investigate and evaluate your business model. See if it's a viable business, if we can even help you with an advice, we can help you with consultancy. Then you do that business. Proceeds or the profit you accrue from it, we share according to a predetermined, agreed on sharing ratio.
Let me get this clear. You took 1,000 Ghana cedis from an Islamic bank.
Yes.
Now the Islamic bank is interested in partnering you to manage the fund. So at what point are they adding another money, or they are maintaining the 1,000 Ghana cedis?
Let's do some comparison here.
Okay.
If it's a conventional bank, the bank will just give you the 1,000 and lean back. Whatever happens to you, end of the year, when the period is ended, you have to give the capital together with the addition. Whatever happens to your business, the bank doesn't care. If you should take it today, you have a loss, you have a gain, the bank doesn't care. Whichever be the way, Allah says in the Qur'an, someone will be cheated in such a transaction. It's either the conventional bank will give the money, the capital, you do the business, and the returns on that investment is higher than even the interest that you're paying. In this case, you have cheated the bank. Opposite is also very true. You take the money for your own business, and you are unable to accrue the profits. On top of it, you have to take an addition to pay back the interest together with the capital. You see, so doing, it actually breeds inflation. I'll come to that later. But let's say, after doing that, you get the bank's money, and you gave it to the bank, but you are unable to get all. So you end up losing, because you couldn't even accrue that amount of profit, let alone to also the addition. So it becomes oppression on the part of the borrower, who in the first place he doesn't even have, he came to you, so you are taking an addition. So you see, in this case, Islam forbid it, because is cheating. That's number one. Number two is there is a transfer of risk from the bank, who is a capital owner,
to the customer
who doesn't even have. So you transfer risk. In Islamic banking, we don't transfer risk, we share risk. That's one of the distinctions. So here you transfer risk, but when we come to the Islamic banking aspect, you are sharing the risk. How do you share risk? And sharing risk has a root in the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he says in the hadith, al-ghurum bil-ghurum wal-kharaj bil-daman. Kharaj bil-daman is a principle in Islam, means to earn profits, it must be accustomed with a particular risk you have taken. So you don't take a risk in an investment, therefore you are unable to take to enjoy a particular profit. So looking at the Islamic bank, he will give you the 1,000, but he will say, I want to take a risk in that investment. So go, if it's farming, right, go do the farming. Let's say year round, we're going to see, based on your books, accounting books, how much profit you have gotten. And therefore, I share with you either 70-30, or 30-70, or 50-50, or 60-40, however you agree.
Okay, so they make sure that the profit actually came from the business.
From the business.
Not that you got it money somewhere to pay.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the first contract. Okay, if there is a loss,
you also take part in sharing the loss. So for the first contract, the Modaraba Contract, which is more of like entrepreneurship, right? If there is a loss, then the person who is applying his skill and his headache, his sweat in the business, he will, he will absorb that part of tiredness and the headache. And you also accrue a bit of reduction in your capital.
So they will actually take their money?
Yes.
The 1,000 Ghana
No. If there is a loss.
No. Even if there is profit.
Yes. Or if there is a profit, you share the
first of all, you return the 1,000 Ghana.
Then you also return the 1,000 Ghana.
Okay.
This is just one of the contracts.
Okay. So let's look at another contract.
Yes. I will want to move now into what we normally know, what the government perhaps may be interested in, which is looking at stocks, bonds, and even looking at these sukuk, or Islamic bonds.
Okay.
When it comes to, let's say, the bonds and the stocks, right, when government is giving out, government is perhaps want more money for infrastructural development. Now, the government can do it in such a way that there is sharing based on this same model. It's more of like sharing of risk between the government and the people. Instead of saying, okay, you come bring your money, every time you get a particular returns, fixed amount based on what you have given. In this case, it's going to be sharing. So you're going to invest, the company will produce a particular product. The profit from there is what the government shares between the government and the people. Another example is, if for instance, currently I believe you are aware that, the current budget that have been read, almost 50% of the budget goes into financing interest on loans we have taken from the IMF and the World Bank.
Okay.
And I believe you are aware.
I'm aware.
And therefore, when you go into the additions, there is nothing left in the budget for the infrastructure development. Meanwhile, if, for instance, Ghana should open up for Islamic finance, and then you go to countries like OIC countries that are actually dealing in that, you have an option. Instead of going to IMF, take the loans, pay back with huge interest, and the loans come with strings.
Okay.
When you go to the Islamic countries, or let's say OIC countries that are dealing in Islamic finance, and not necessarily Islamic countries, even in Africa, we have Nigeria, we have Guinea. Ghana, West Africa is actually the only country which is not part of OIC. So those who are in OIC, instead of going to IMF, you can go to the OIC and say, okay, I have these, let's say, farming. I want to support my farms.
Our headache now is road projects.
Our road projects, for example. So what they can do is, we have a contract with them. You come, you bring the funds, all right, give us your funds, we will use it, make our roads, and therefore the tolls we make on the roads, the profit accrued from there, we share with you according to a particular profit sharing ratio. If you have more profit, we share more profit. You have less profit, we share less profit. And there is a loss, we take the headache of our involvement, our investment. And you also accrue a bit of the loss, but because you know it's an investment, it's huge millions of money you're bringing, they help us also with consultants. They help us with seeing that our business model works.
No.
And therefore, we're able to do it. The money is sitting there, and they use it, in this case, taking risk in our economy. So you develop the economy, end of the year, perhaps after 20, 30 years, you return their capital to them. And by then, Ghana is able to even have its roots. Based on this same model, Malaysia was developed. Based on this same model, some parts of Indonesia is developed. Based on this same model, even Singapore and UK and other countries, they deal, and this is what we call the sukuk, or the model of Islamic bonds.
Yeah, I think we have to devote one day talk about this contract. Otherwise, we won't go far.
Yes.
So the two is okay for now.
Okay.
But you see, in all your submissions, no interest. But we also know that the conventional banks rely hugely on interest to make break even or to make profit. So if Islamic banking is not accepting interest, then how do they survive? How will they survive?
Yeah, very good question. Islamic banks do not deal in interest, but what are other sources of, what are the other sources with which they accrue something to even pay their staff? One of them comes from services that they render. So since they render a service, you pay a service charge. I give an example.
When you come to banks to pay a service charge.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. When you go, for instance, Wadi'a, right? In Wadi'a means deposit or savings. You just go there, deposit. You just deposit your money. Now, once you deposit, you just can come back and pick up your deposit anytime you want. But since the bank is keeping that money for you, they will not use it for any investment if you don't give them any express communication or consent. So they keep the money, but then they can charge you a service charge for keeping that money. That one is a service charge for the services rendered to you. That's one way they get. Another way is when they involve as partners in your business, they accrue profit with which they rely on. In Islam banking and finance, the main objective is counter to the objective of conventional finance or conventional economics. Conventional or the traditional finance, the traditional economics, if you know, when we go into the basics, in the fundamentals, you realize that it's more about maximization of wealth.
Exactly.
In the conventional. So whatever means we charge interest, we do this and that, we just want to maximize our interest. And this is counter basically to even the teachings in the Bible.
All stockholders would want to maximize profit.
Exactly. But when you come to Islamic finance, it's not the ultimate goal, but the ultimate goal is for societal development. So make money, but make money not at the expense of cheating others, but make money at the ethically in such a way that the society can develop. So when Islamic banks say they don't deal in interest, it doesn't mean they are not profitable. When you look at currently, in terms of profit, we're talking about profitability. Islamic Bank is more or less about 50 years in operation. When we really say that they have physical systems and assets in the world, right? 50 years now in operation. The traditional has been in existence for more than 350 years. But to know they are very profitable, within these 50 years, the assets of these Islamic banks in combined is more than $2 trillion. And the year-on-year growth for Islamic bank is 20 to 25% year-on-year growth compared to the conventional, which is only 5% year-on-year growth. So this is telling you basically that if you go in detail, we don't have the time now for me to go in detail. That's why I'm giving you the statistics to know that they are developing. And on top of that, you remember some time back, even Macron, not Macron, Cameron, right? Cameron, the former Prime Minister of UK, mentioned it clearly that he wants, UK to be the hub of Islamic finance. If you go to the US at that time, Bush mentioned something similar. most of the parts of the world, they are mentioning something about that. They want Islamic finance to be their countries to be.
Amir of Kano said he introduced it, or somebody began, and then it was in his time that
Lamido.
Lamido.
Yes.
But he said in the beginning there was a lot of opposition. But if you really put your feet on the ground to check, now investment from non-Muslims outweighs that of Muslims.
For Muslims.
And the government of Nigeria heavily relies on Sukuk, the Islamic bonds, for their road construction.
Yes.
And the call for it is overwhelming. But let me ask you this question, Prof. It's so beautiful how you articulate the rudiments and then the technicalities involved, and then countries that have.
So the citizens or the citizenry are having options if they want to go here or they want to go there. Basically, Muslims and even Christians who are actually abiding by the teachings in the Bible may not want to go for interest